Why did I wake up that night? I have no idea. I mean, the baby was fine. It wasn't crying or anything. I suddenly woke up and couldn't get back to sleep. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours. The clock said 2 a.m. I sighed and got out of bed. I had to pee anyway. And while I was in the bathroom, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face looked pale and puffy. Did I gain weight? I wondered. God, I look so ugly. How could anyone, my husband Mark, be attracted to me after seeing me like this? That thought hurt me deeply. Suddenly I was acutely aware of all my flaws. I made my way back to bed as quietly as I could. Mark was still sleeping. He looked so peaceful. His chest rose and fell rhythmically with each breath. I reached out and touched his cheek. So soft. I stroked his hair. What did I do to deserve him? Thought I was so lucky to have him. I don't know why he chose me, I whispered. I know I'm not perfect. At that moment, the front door downstairs opened. I froze. Who could that be at 2 a.m? Mark stirred. I hushed. Whoever it is, they're probably just stopping by for a quick chat, and then they'll be gone. But who would be visiting at this hour? I didn't want to wake Mark, so I got out of bed again and went to the window. I peered through the curtains. I couldn't see anything except a vague outline of a man on the steps outside our house. I tried to make out his features, but it was too dark. I couldn't see his face. Who are you? I called out into the darkness. No reply. I returned to the bedroom. Mark was still asleep. I hesitated for only a second before stripping off my pajamas and getting back into bed. I lay down beside him and wrapped myself around him as best I could without waking him. I buried my face in his neck and inhaled his scent. This is what I wanted, I thought. This is all that mattered. Mark and the baby. Everything else was secondary. My own needs, desires, dreams, they didn't matter. I knew I couldn't have asked for more. And yet something inside me, some primal instinct, was deeply unsatisfied. Something was missing. The man downstairs continued to climb the stairs, strained to listen. Was he talking? I couldn't hear anything. But then the front door opened and closed. I peeked through the curtain again. The man was making his way across the lawn. I watched him walk away from the house and disappear into the darkness. Who was he? Why was he here? Had he come for me, or had he come for Mark? These questions buzzed in my head, unanswered. When the first rays of sunlight began to stream in through the curtains, I woke up. I turned to my side and found that Mark was still fast asleep. I gently nudged him. Wake up, Mark, I whispered. He mumbled something and rolled over. I don't know what he said. I didn't care to find out. I slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face. I needed to wake myself up. Then I went downstairs. As I entered the kitchen, I noticed a glass jar on the counter. I picked it up. The label said cookies. I made them yesterday. I smiled sadly. I had completely forgotten. I had baked cookies, late into the night, after the baby was asleep, of course. And I was so tired, just put the jar into the cupboard and went to bed. I never even ate one. You're up early, Mark said sleepily as he joined me in the kitchen. Yeah, I can't sleep well these days. You know how it is. It's always on my mind. I need to lose weight. I need to exercise more. I need to eat better. Oh, look at this. I gained so much weight while I was pregnant. Look at my thighs. They're so big. Mark wrapped his arms around my waist. Don't be silly. You look beautiful. I know I do. It makes me sick to my stomach. That's why I shouldn't have stayed up so late last night. Should have gone to bed earlier. Look, there's still cookie crumbs on my shirt. I hate it when that happens. I was so embarrassed last week when I was picking up the kids from school, and Sarah said, "Wow, your shirt looks like you rolled around in flour." Kids are so mean. Mark kissed me lightly on the lips. You're beautiful. Stop torturing yourself. Come here. He pulled me close and hugged me. His body smelled faintly of stale cigarette smoke, but it was a smell I loved because it was his smell. I buried my face in his chest and took a deep breath. Yes, I was beautiful. And I also had Mark, who loved me, and our 2 beautiful children. What more could I ask for? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except maybe a little more passion between us, I thought. Hadn't had sex in so long. I pushed myself away from Mark. I need to get ready for work. I have that meeting with Mr. Clayton today. Clayton, right? Mark nodded absently. What's he like? Very nice. and very cute. Is that the guy who was here last night? I shook my head. No, I think he comes every Friday. Just to see me. To see you, Mark corrected. He's crazy about you. Oh, I know. And you're crazy about him. What are you talking about? I said sharply. Nothing. Never mind. I just, remember to wear something nice. What? You serious? I don't want to go to that stupid party tonight. It's for a good cause. Or something nice. Fine. As Mark left for work, I went back to the bedroom. I had to get dressed. First, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. Not a single trace of makeup on my face. I hardly recognized myself. But then I saw the sparkle in my eyes. Maybe it would be fun to dress up a bit. Just a little. After I got dressed, I went to the kitchen. I grabbed the phone book and flipped through the pages. Dentists, doctors, lawyers, plumbers. There he was, Mr. Clayton. Clayton, that's right. I looked at his phone number and dialed it. Hello, Mr. Clayton here. You want to meet me at the usual place at 8? See you then? I hung up the phone and smiled. Time to get ready for my date with Mr. Clayton. An hour later, I was dressed in black silk. I adjusted my black leather jacket. I looked at myself in the mirror. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I stepped out of the house and hailed a taxi. I was excited. Mr. Clayton always knew how to make me feel like $1,000,000. He spoiled me with expensive gifts and compliments. He made me laugh. And we had such a wonderful connection. I knew he was older than me, but I didn't care. It was worth it. We arrived at the restaurant, and I got out of the taxi. Thank you. I paid the driver and joined Mr. Clayton at his table. We hugged warmly. You look absolutely stunning. Thanks. So, you're leaving me alone for another week? I sighed dramatically. I know. It's torture for both of us. Just get through this week, and then I'm all yours. Suddenly, someone walked into the restaurant. My blood ran cold. It was Mark. What was he doing here? He looked every bit as dashing as I remembered. He was wearing a crisp white shirt, and his dark hair was perfectly styled. What was he doing here? Why did he come to this restaurant? Most importantly, who was he with? Because he wasn't alone. He had brought Sarah, my sister. My beautiful, stunning sister. The woman I hated and loved more than anything in the world. She waved at me from across the room. Hi, Sarah. Hi, sis. What are you doing here? I asked her. She shrugged innocently. Mark and I decided to surprise you. Surprise? The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Why did they come here? Why now? And why did they bring Sarah? All these questions buzzed in my head, but there were no answers. Suddenly, Mark stood up. Excuse me for a moment, Sarah, he said to her. He walked towards me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run away, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in place. Mark stopped in front of me. You look beautiful, he whispered. Thank you, I heard myself say. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair away from my face. I leaned into his touch. For a brief moment, everything was perfect. It was as if the restaurant didn't exist. It was just Mark and me. And then I saw the look on Sarah's face. She wasn't smiling anymore. She looked at Mark with disgust. He turned to her. Sarah, can you see that? He asked her. Can see what I thought? What was going on? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't. Then Mark looked at me again. Do you remember what I told you before? About Mr. Clayton? Of course I do. The father of my child. What? How? When? Why? 1,000 questions exploded from my lips. Mark held up a hand to silence me. Don't talk. Just listen. Mr. Clayton isn't the father of my child. The child I'm carrying is yours. What? That's impossible. I cried. Why would Mark say such a thing? He wasn't the father of my child. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. I'm sorry, Mark said quietly. I'm so sorry, but I couldn't take it anymore. I started to cry. I covered my mouth with my hands and let the tears flow. Mark reached out to touch me, but I slapped his hand away. Go away, I whispered. Leave me alone. Don't ever want to see you again. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away. Sarah looked at me with pity. She shook her head and followed Mark. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the table. Finally, I got up and left the restaurant. I hailed a taxi and went home. I had so many questions, so much to say to Mark, but the taxi ride gave me time to sort through my thoughts. I realized that no matter what I said, no matter what I did, things would never be the same again. I had lost Mark, and now I had lost my baby too. I never thought it was possible to feel so much pain. I stumbled out of the taxi and onto the sidewalk in front of my house. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Everything seemed strange and unfamiliar. I walked through the house like a zombie. Didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. Didn't know how to feel. I just wanted to curl up in a ball and cry. And then I heard a noise upstairs. I froze. Was that the baby? I cautiously made my way to the stairs and started to climb them. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard the sound again. It was coming from Mark and Sarah's room. I stood outside the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to know the truth. I had to know what was going on. Reached out and knocked on the door. The door opened before I could even knock again. Sarah stood there with tears in her eyes. I stared at her, speechless. She looked at me for a long moment, then she stepped aside. "Come in," she whispered. I walked into the room, and there on the bed lay Mark, unconscious.